Hello and welcome to MLW Confusion. I'm your host Rob Cameron, bringing you all that you may or may not need to know about Major League Wrestling and its television programming. Oh, Frabjous Day! We have MLW content coming our way. We are never saying never once again, but first, of course, let's talk about Summer of the Beast. That is going to be August 29th on YouTube and or the Melrose Ballroom in New York City, wherever you happen to be at any given time. We've got three matches and a couple of bits of news coming out of the event this past week, so let's just kind of cut it down and see where we're going here. Unfortunately, most of these have been spoilered if you got to see Never Say Never, but whatever, I'm just gonna it's been a week now, dude. If you haven't watched it, spoilers are abound. Anywho, first of which, the New Age Andersons, Brock and CW, are coming to Summer of the Beasts. They've been hitting it out in the southeast territories of the United States independent wrestling scene. Tag team champions, at least one promotion. I don't have Muffins here to give me the stats on that one, but they are looking to make their debut for MLW at Summer of the Beasts, and I'm excited. This is kind of cool to see. I know CW's been hanging around for the last couple of months, and Brock has been looking to make a name for himself since leaving AEW, and hopefully this is kind of the start of a regenerative state for the tag team division, because really there's not a whole lot going on in the tag division with Second Gear crew in flux, WTF in flux, Cozy Max practically not defending the belts, even though they are defending them at Summer of the Beasts against Contra Unit, and then whatever's going on with Contra Unit as well. So we'll see what's going on with that. I'm actually interested in this thing. I'm excited to see where this is going to go. Speaking of Summer of the Beasts, of course, spoilers for the Opera Cup tournament. We have three matches announced for Opera Cup second round action, which if you've seen the updated brackets, not a spoiler. We're just putting pen to paper, making it official, as Mystico battles Atlantis Jr. Luchador action continues in MLW to be one of the preeminent independent promotions featuring Lucha Libre. Also announced Alex Kane versus Bad Dude Tito, and this has low-key banger written all over it, I think. Gonna see two thick dudes tossing each other about. Both guys are fond of their suplex, and both have chips on their shoulders in various ways, shapes, and forms. So I'm excited to see that match too. And here's where we get interesting, and I'm scratching my head here a wee bit off this one, but a couple weeks ago we announced that TJ Perkins is back with MLW, at least for this here taping, and he was announced as an alternate for the Opera Cup, and we speculated on where's that going to be? Where's that coming from? And what's going to happen in the meanwhile? And we get our answer as Davey Boy Smith Jr. has an injury and has to pull out of the Opera Cup. They sent out a press release about TJP's status today, and also released a video on social media with Mr. Sailor Tom Lawlor and Davey Boy Smith Jr., who is rubbing his lower belly, upper groin area. Evidently went to legitimate medical provider, got a doctor's note, or at least a nurse practitioner's note, saying he can't do the wrestle right now, at least for the Opera Cup, and so TJP will be stepping in as an alternate to be taking on Tom Lawlor. Tom had some strong words for TJP, and yeah. So this is what we're doing now. TJP versus Filthy Tom Lawlor. Don't get me wrong. On paper, this is going to be a full-on banger. I just really question the whole booking of this here situation. Don't get me wrong. As soon as they announced TJP, you knew he was going to be in the Opera Cup. He was going to take the place of somebody. But, we're just going to have an off-screen injury to Davey Boy Smith Jr. when they already really hyped up, the WTF battle. And it's just oh, yeah, I've been injured training. I'm out now. Cool. Sad face. Never mind that we were looking at a possible three-peat for Davey Boy Smith Jr. Yeah, but so, as I said, on paper it's going to be a big match anyway. It's just one of those little things that, I kind of created, I kind of question their creative direction on that. But yeah, so that sounds great. I guess there's our news for the week. Let's go ahead and just take a brief pause for the cause, get yourself an energy drink and whatever it is that you do in the next 30 seconds. I'll be back. Un momento. All right, we are back and ready to talk Never Say Never, our first event in like a month. Jonesing for some MLW, baby. We got it here tonight. We start the show off hot with Contra Unit attacking Okamura like in the alleyway outside of the arena. It's just like a 17-on-1 attack, and the old man can't handle it all. Hail Contra. If you're like me, sometimes you need a pick-me-up to get you through the day. I drink Ray's Energy for that pickup. Ray's comes in a bunch of different flavors, and more recently Italian Ice, which is great, by the way. And it contains no sugar, so there's no crash after you drink it. And, really, like, best of all, if you go through me and go to wetrepsports.com, use my code CASS, you get 15% off your order. So, also, be like Cass, drink Ray's Energy. We get the whole rundown of Never Say Never. Joe Dombrowski, Christian Cole, of course, our commentary duo for this evening, letting us know how the card is shaking up, is being shook up as well, I guess. I guess not really. Okamura wasn't scheduled to be here tonight, but, whatever. It is what it is. And we are getting some first-round Opera Cup action as Magnus takes on Mystico. We get an extended feeling out process. Mystico takes over as the action spills outside. Outside of the ring, though, Magnus just stops caring. He just chucks Mystico hither and yarn across the arena into the barricades and the ring apron, etc. Inside the ring, Magnus goes for the mask and hot dogs for a bit, like really playing up to the crowd. Unfortunately, though, this allows Mystico to pick up the pace with a 619 and a twisting body press. Magnus feigns a knee injury ever so briefly just to sucker in his way to take over on offense, but really it was all for naught, as a Gamagiri and a diving crossbody by Mystico gets a 2 count, followed up by a tope suicida outside the ring. Magnus with the super play only gets 2, hits a delayed FU, double underhook backbreaker, only gets 2 count off that, and a surprise cutter as well, only gets 2. Magnus dares Mystico to come up to the top rope, and of course, well, Mystico does, because that's what Mystico likes to do. Hits a super rana for 2. Up on the top rope, we'll get a solo Spanish fly. Once again, commentary miscalls it, and I'm very angry about the situation. But what am I going to do? Also, it wasn't a very good Spanish fly kind of thing. It almost looked more like a Japanese arm drag, like a super Japanese arm drag, which is also, freaking amazing. Only 2 count off of that, of course, as well. We are trading corner clotheslines, double down off of stereo big boots. However, Mystico is the first one to do anything off of that. Hits La Mystica. Magnus taps before it even hits the ground, practically. Okay, that's a lie. He hit the ground, but as soon as he touched the ground, he started tapping. Didn't even wait for Mystico to start wrenching on that arm. So your winner, and moving on to the second round of the Opera Cup, the MLW middleweight champion, Mystico. And definitely, if you are a fan of Lucha Libre, this match is for you. It was a fun match. It wasn't quite as epic as they've had some Mystico matches be, which, don't get me wrong, I am all down for it, because some of them, as good as they were, just kind of drug on for a bit. And this one, thankfully, was relatively short, especially since Magnus was reduced to hot dogging a lot in the early goings of the match. But otherwise, this is a Mystico match. You're not going to be disappointed with it if you like Lucha Libre, of course. Following this, Dave Marquez is outside of the medical room. He is with Akira and Satoshi Kojima. They're concerned about their tag team partner, Okamura. They're upset when, for some odd reason, our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich comes up and offers his advice, and surprisingly, his advice isn't illegal. I'm mildly impressed with that. But the important thing is, Satoshi Kojima comes up with the now classic catchphrase, "Bitch-ass Contra." That is the main contribution to the segment. I'm not gonna lie, and I can just listen to listen to Kojima swear all day because my mentality is that of like a 13-year-old. But, whatever, man. Moving on. Cesar Duran is in his office. He's trying to do business. Selena De La Renta and Bad Dude Tito are going over like baby shower items, giggling over things. They bring in like Baby Daddy to ask his opinion on things. And Cesar's like, dude, I'm trying to work here. You are still my employee. Where is your mask? And Selena's like, come on. He's family. Like, he's family now. He is the father of your grandchild. And I'm like, okay, so like Cesar's like, fine, but we're going to do this the right way. Like, you're already an employee, but you're an employee and taking care of the family business now. So here's some ground rules. And ultimately gives him a golden Azteca-goon mask to lead the charge in battle whenever that may be. Personally, I think it's just he's gonna have a hit on Baby Daddy, and that's just gonna make it all the easier for the sniper to see him. But I'm also the crazy guy that figured out Cesar was the daddy thing too. So I don't know, maybe not. Kaboom! I don't know, Lucha Underground kind of stuff, As previously announced, the next gen Andersons are coming to MLW at Summer of the Beast, so I am looking forward to that once again. But we've already talked about that, so let's move on to our next match. Danny Jones making his MLW debut versus Bad Dude Tito, first round of the Opera Cup. And I'm not gonna lie, as I said, I am not terribly familiar with Mr. Jones. This is where I put up the meme, where, I think it's Shaq, where I say, I apologize, I was not familiar with your game, because Danny Jones is a big dude, and he likes to hit people very hard. Really took it to Bad Dude Tito, during this match. So, but I digress. Let's get back, at the start of the party here. Tito, of course, is announced to the ring by Jesus Rodriguez. Selena De La Renta is on commentary to put Tito over. Tito is actually very over with the crowd. The crowd is all about Bad Dude Tito. And as I said, this match becomes very quickly two big dudes just hitting each other very, very hard. And they are both very, very vocal in their attacks and or selling. So there's a lot of noise to be had here. Tito briefly holds up the advantage before getting striked a bit more. Because Jones just goes strike crazy. He's just chopping all over the place. We get two exploders, or exploder for two, German suplex for two, dragon suplex, and a knee also gets two. All these by Danny Jones. Tito fires up with a deadlift German and a blue thunder. Only gets a 2 count off of that. We are big meaty men slapping meat again. Tito finally hits a tope suicida, and it's just like all breaking down from here. Both gentlemen again just get really going at it, and Jones actually held the advantage for a surprisingly amount of time against the national openweight champion. However, though, it is all for naught because Tito hits the tequila screwdriver out of nowhere, hits the 3 count to advance to the second round. And again, as I said, I was not familiar with Jones, but dude can go. He's a big dude, likes to hit hard, and really took it to Tito. I was really surprised that they gave Jones, I mean, yes, it's the Opera Cup, but they really put over Jones as kind of a guy to beat. This is definitely nowhere near a squash match. Not that I necessarily thought there was going to be one out of it. So yeah, this is a sleeper match of the night, I would say. A match that I didn't expect to be near as good as it was, just because I didn't know who Danny Jones was. Following this, we go backstage with our drug money bag as the Beaumont Fight Club. Alex Kane, Mr. Thomas are complaining about the seating. Kane goes off screen for a bit, and Mr. Saint Laurent comes out of the bathroom with a briefcase full of money. He's basically starts sweet-talking Thomas, it's time for you to be a leader, man. You can have your own Beaumont Fight Club. And Alex Kane is back. He's like, what are you doing, Florida Fat Joe? Get out of here. No one wants to see you. And Mr. Saint Laurent does the curly shuffle out of the back. They kind of just, brush, Thomas and Kane are just dude, this is a lot of money. One way or another, one of us is going to the next round, and either way, we are partying tonight. We also get footage from The Instigator. That's what the movie's called. The Instigator, featuring Paul Walter Hauser. Get about like a 2 to 5 minute clip of that film. So that's the latest project from Paul Walter Hauser. Before we go into our next match, which is Jake Crist versus the notorious Ryan Gosling. Bobby Fish is inexplicably on commentary. Really, no one asks Bobby Fish to talk, but here he is. BRG gets on the mic. He's going to get revenge on Jake because he's just like you people. He a trailer park trash. Chris doesn't even wait for his entrance music. He just comes out and starts booting BRG around the ring. But BRG stops the acai moonsault outside the ring. BRG teases a dive of his own and flips the double birds to Jake, and then follows it up by flipping off the crowd as well. Jake is in the corner and gets hit by Sweet Victory. Only 2 count off that. Flash DVD by Crist out of nowhere. Only gets 2, though. Not enough to put him away. And then, speaking of Flash maneuvers, an eye poke, the key to victory, the fisherman neck breaker, and victory for the notorious BRG, Ryan Gosling. And before we go into what happened next, it was like a really quick match. It was just a sprint. There was not a whole lot of downtime with the combination of Crist's offense and him just firing up in general. And then, of course, BRG taking over. He did take some time to mouth off, but he wasn't stalling all that much. It was a quick sprint of the match. After the match, Fish announces that, oh, well, I'm supposed to talk to the winner and interview him, so I'm going to go do that right now. So Fish gets up to talk to BRG, and BRG said, it should be me in the Opera Cup instead of being an alternate, which I don't think it's ever been mentioned that he was an alternate for the Opera Cup. And it's time, with a win over Jake Crist, to put this behind him and get into title contention, because you know what? The National Openweight Championship would probably look good around his waist. About this time, Jake Crist attacks, and Bobby Fish is like, hey, this is an interview segment. I don't know what's going on here. And BRG sucker punches Crist, and then Bobby Fish is like, dude, what are you doing too? This is how you do it, and starts throwing a knee and putting the boots to Crist as well, ending with a spike pile driver on the exposed arena floor. So I'm interested in this. I'm kind of interested to see how this potential partnership with BRG and Bobby Fish goes. BRG finally has a veteran to kind of work under. Bobby Fish has something to make him look kind of relevant in MLW instead of just showing up and having kick fights with folks. So I'm curious. Let's see where this goes. Following this, we get a Summer of the Beasts rundown, which we've already taken care of up to this point on the show. And after this, we get the Battle of WTF as Flop Dollar himself, AJ Francis, takes on Davey Boy Smith Jr. And we still don't get a proper explanation as to what happened here. They've just been oh, there's rumors that AJ Francis has had a falling out with WTF, and commentaries speculates that, bad business dealings and whatever. But yeah, so Davey Boy Smith Jr. versus AJ Francis, two also big dudes. We have 2 big meaty men slapping meat battles on one card, which is pretty good for MLW overall. Anywho, but yeah, so we get a Haas standoff. We are going to just bounce off the ropes, see who can knock each other down first. And of course, it's Davey Boy Smith Jr. He gets knocked down by the much larger Francis. Davey Boy drops AJ on the throat first on the top rope and starts grinding away with boots and rest holds and whatnot. Francis comes back with a side slam. He takes 30 minutes to do a balling taunt and almost a people's elbow kind of dealio. I could have had a nap or something in the meantime, maybe freshen me up for the rest of the show. But yeah, so he took all this time to do that. AJ calls for a choke slam, but Mr. St. Laurent grabs his ankle. Using this distraction, Davey Boy Smith locks on a sleeper hold. They get a brief break as Francis kind of makes it to the ropes, but Davey Boy locks it on again, this time hooking his legs around Francis's, and he's really just cranking it in. Francis is out on his feet, kind of collapses into the ropes. Ref makes the 5 count, and Davey Boy won't let go, calls for the bell. So your winner by disqualification AJ Francis. Like, Davey Boy's upset by this, but like, dude, you had like a total like of a 10 count, like, before the DQ like happened. So like, it's kind of a BS ending to kind of a BS match. Arguably, like the match like just wasn't that great, but you know, we have so much to work with, and you know, it was what it was. It's just kind of curious, like, with the DQ choke out in the ropes. Like, see how that. I was gonna say, like, let's see how that goes with it. Oh, and it turns out Davey Boy Smith is now injured, so I guess we're not gonna see anything of it. Whatever, man. It's one of the more awkward calls of the evening. Getting ready for our MMA cage fight, we get to see, like, get a video package overviewing the entirety of the feud between Filthy Tom Lawlor and Paul Walter Hauser, what's leading up to this MMA cage fight that'll be later tonight. But first, we have the featherweights as a debuting Renee Michelle takes on Delmi Exo with Cesar Duran. Get a feeling out process with Renee controlling the graps, really grinding in that headlock. Holds that in for quite some time. We get a Russian leg sweep and a stalling suplex. Get a 2 count by Delmi Exo. Renee starts throwing really slow kicks, but misses a nice moonsault. I'll give her that. The moonsault was nice. And like, the kicks were like brutal and slow. And she even like at one point went for drop kick, a diving drop kick, which in itself like looked okay, but like they took way too much time to like set it up. Like, Michelle like stumbled on the ropes, and they're like, yes, safety first, don't want you to fall, but like in the meanwhile, Delmi is just standing there like someone screamed finish her in the meanwhile before Michelle got off the top rope, and that looked kind of garbage too. But yeah, these kicks certainly not helping things. However, with the missed moonsault, Delmi hits the Delmi driver and gets the victory. As I said, like, this match was also not great. Like, I on one hand, I appreciate them trying to, you know, bring new life into the featherweight division, because they've lost some names in the last handful of months, but like, they haven't had good luck bringing in Florida talent. So the Sofia Cortez match was not that great, and this Renee Michelle match also not terribly well either. Just my humble opinion. Feel free to you know feel differently than I do. Yell at me in the comments section. Yell at me on Twitter or whatever. Do that. Cool. But anyway, so Joe Dombrowski brings out Gigi Ray inexplicably, even though she had nothing to do with the match. She puts over that she wrestled Janai Kai and puts over the featherweight talent, and she's working to climb her way to the top when Renee Michelle got angry by this. And like, on one hand, like, I understand where she's coming from, but like, also she lost her match too, so I wouldn't be pulling like the bully card on this and talking about how like she's the one that's going to be kicking all the ass, when so like both the people that are arguing right now are 0-1 in MLW. But hey, whatever. Looks like we're going to have a challenge between the two of them, so yay. We go backstage with Dave Marquez. He's with Bobby Fish and BRG. Bobby Fish is just lecturing at this point because he is allegedly the professor. Notes that Marquez's word ridiculous is ridiculous in and of itself. Calls the actions from earlier appropriate. So it was appropriate what they did to Jake Crist. Throughout this entire process though, BRG has the most punchable face in this. Like, he is just back there looking smug. Like, I really wanted to slap him, and he didn't technically say anything to run me down. I mean, at least not directly. I mean, I guess he insinuated I lived in a trailer park or something, when we all know I live in my mother's basement. And obviously trailers do not have basements, so bully on him. But yeah, his face is really punchable. And that was what I mostly got out of this segment, was a very punchable face. Speaking of the featherweights, a couple of minutes ago, we get a highlight video, like basically kind of giving a rundown of the entire featherweight division right now. Every competitor that is currently in MLW that is classified as a featherweight, running from Delmi Exo to our two latest debuts, Janai Kai, and even talking about some of the Joshi talent that has been brought in this past year. Before moving on to our next Opera Cup first round match, as Bomaye implodes Alex Kane, Mr. Thomas, only one can move on. We have a handshake, we have graps. Thomas with a couple of suplees, a diving elbow drop for two. They start fighting on the apron, and Kane hits a big spear followed up by the apron splash. By the way, that is the hardest part of the ring if no one's ever told you that before. Dr. Bomb gets two by Kane. Wow, I can't read my notes. It just says, like, Stoke of Leeds to sleep by Thomas. I have no clue what that was supposed to be. Either way, whatever, like... Okay, there we go. Now I'm remembering. I have my memory refreshed on this because most professional podcast right here. Mr. Thomas did something. Now, I can't entirely remember what it was, but however, it led to a sleeper hold. Kane does get out of it and hits a rebound, a German suplex. Rydeen bomb by Thomas gets two. Trifecta of suplex and a spear by Kane puts away Mr. Thomas, and your winner, Alex Kane. After the match, Kane gets on the mic and basically just says that they fight all the time. And, you know, the only difference between now and when they normally do it is the amount of people that are getting to watch it. Like, so no hard feelings. It's on Bomaye, and Bomaye is for the people. Mr. Thomas agrees. Bomaye is for the people. Outside, Selena and Cesar are going back and forth. Selena wants a baby shower on a yacht. She takes her boyfriend, baby daddy, and leaves. Cesar takes a phone call about the family situation. So I don't think things are looking very good for baby daddy. Either that or things are looking very good and it's a surprise, like, bachelor party kind of thing. Those are the two things. He's either getting assassinated or we're having a bachelor party. Nothing in between here. In the meanwhile, we get an extended highlight video for Kenta, including his previous hype video when he first came into MLW. And they just tacked on some new information at the end of it before he will be taking on Akira at Summer of the Beasts. But in the meanwhile, it is our unofficial main event MMA cage fight. Paul Walter Hauser, Stingray himself, versus Tom Lawlor. Just going to throw out there that they don't tell us what the rules for an MMA cage fight are, and so I am not going to lie. I thought this was going to be like a faux MMA match, and it wasn't. We had a round counter, we had a timer at the bottom, so I don't know if we were just going like Kumite rules or whatever, where we just have like a single like 20-minute round or whatever. But it was basically a pro wrestling match, except they started in a cage. So knockouts really weren't a thing. Like, I mean, submissions were a thing because they're always a thing, but like, this wasn't just strikes and submissions. Like, this is just straight up pro wrestling stuff. Yeah, so go team on that one. Tom Lawlor, that looks like he just come off the Cobra Kai shoot. He's wearing Cobra Kai gi. He's got cigarettes. He's got Jaeger, so he is ready to party. And just starts off charging with knee strikes, and then rides Paul Walter Hauser like a cowboy. And I haven't said it quite yet, but man, I love Filthy Tom Lawlor. Dude, he will do no wrong in my eyes, and that is a lie because there are a lot of things he can do that will take him down. But I'd rather not think of those things because those are filthy even for him. Paul Walter Hauser goes for a single leg like a Mo, eats a knee for his troubles. And if this was an MMA fight, that knee would have ended the match because he was down. Like, he wasn't like full on unconscious, but he was laying down long enough that like he had like a boxing 10 count against him. But evidently there's no KOs here. So Paul Walter Hauser is given the opportunity to wake up, and we have a back and forth. We are now fighting on top of the cage for some odd reason. Paul Walter Hauser gets dumped over and gets a kendo stick, and then Snake Eyes Tom Lawlor into the boxing ring turnbuckle, gets the sitting stool, places that in the cage, and donks Tom Lawlor's head off against it. We're fighting into the boxing ring now with Paul Walter Hauser hitting some weak kicks that makes Renee Michelle's look like Bruce Lee. We get a white Russian leg sweep, only gets 2 though by PWH. Hauser charges into the cage, misses. Well, I mean, he charges into the cage directly. Tom Lawlor takes over for a bit. Psycho knee only gets 2 count. We get a half crab and a rope break, and Tom's like, rope break? There's no rope breaks in MMA cage fights. And he's really confused. And that's okay. Watching this match, I was really confused too. But it's a thing. And Tom gets kicked out of the ring in the process of all this stuff. Hauser murders the ring attendant, just dumps him off the platform, like they're on a quasi-raised platform compared to the rest of the gym. The attendant just gets dumped to the floor before returning his attention to Tom Lawlor. Hauser spears Tom through the cage off that. It's like, whatever, man. I don't know what's going on. That wasn't even like the cage they started in. It's just a random cage you got speared through now. Hauser is then put through a snack table, which looked to be like 2 indie doors on a couple of benches. Either way, chips for everybody. Okay, the kid is not dead. We see him moving in the background as Tom Lawlor starts dominating Hauser and just kind of finally drags him into the ring for a rear naked choke. Lawlor is not done, however. Explicitly yells, like, I'm not done with you yet. Gets some nunchucks. Like, he is, I don't know what he's doing now. He is just gone mad with power. Has the nunchucks, gets ready to take a swing at Hauser, whiffs it, hits himself in the face, allowing Hauser to hit the house arrest, his modified flatliner, to give Paul Walter Hauser the win. And I am 2 minds about this match. On one hand, it was just a complete and utter clusterfuck. The rules were never explained. So if you just go by MMA cage match, like, there's an expectation. And those expectations are shattered, and not in the good way. But if you happened, for whatever reason, to come into this fight with the eyes of a pure newborn, it was amazing. It was so stupid. It was brilliant. And yeah, like, on one hand, I was very thoroughly entertained, but like, I was thoroughly entertained basically on the rewatch when I stopped, like, going like, yeah, MMA cage fight. Tom Lawlor's just gonna rip a guy's head off in an octagon, and it's gonna be fun. And that wasn't going to be the case at all. So, like, there we go. Lack of just actual planning of things. It technically worked once your anger subsided, though. So, as I said, that is our unofficial main event, because after this, my monitor went out. Allegedly, we had Contra Unit battling Satoshi Kojima, our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich, and Akira. But yeah, it just, like, mysteriously broke into fuzz. May have been transported into the TV, into a satanic realm of demonic parodies of current television. But like, that's another podcast right there. But what I am told by people whose TVs were not possessed is that Satoshi Kojima was powerbombed through a table, and Akira got to scream Mr. President and save Kojima's life from a big chair shot from Mads Kruger, as Kruger and Contra Unit take the victory. So yeah, there we go. We are never saying never again. And yeah, I'm definitely 2 minds about the show. Like, the first half of the event, like, in ring wise, like, was great. It was everything you'd want from MLW. But, like, the second half of the show was pretty lackluster. I mean, the featherweight match was not great. You know, the after-match promo involving the featherweights was kind of odd, considering the people involved in it. You know, our favorite fast food breakfast sandwich wrestled, and that always knocks it down a star for me as well. And the whole MMA cage fight and the lack of communication as to what the rules are for this thing, and then just kind of doing whatever they wanted in this weird cinematic match, like, kind of brought everything down. And then overall, they're like, outside of this Cesar Duran baby daddy Selena De La Renta stuff, you know, there wasn't necessarily a whole lot of storyline progression to be had either. None, granted, like, a lot of this had to do with the Opera Cup being a thing too, though we did get the pairing between Ryan Gosling and Bobby Fish as well, which I think will be interesting. So, yeah, it's a solid, like, B- kind of show. Like, it's kind of what I hate to make it sound bad, but it's about wasted potential. Yeah, and this has been kind of the norm for MLW. Is like, a lot of the in-ring is good. It's right there. But then there's the everything else surrounding it that's kind of like, dude, what? And I think that brings a lot of stuff down and kind of takes a lot of the hype that MLW may have and takes that down a notch. And I don't have an easy answer for that, and I'm not sure, like, even if I did have an easy answer for it, right now I don't think is the place to do it. So maybe I'll dedicate an episode of the con, you know, to talk about that. Because that might take another half hour. But yeah, so that was Never Say Never, though. So as I said, like, the first half was great action. I was thoroughly impressed by Danny Jones. Anytime I get to see Jake Crist wrestle is great in my eyes as well. You know, and even, like, when I did kind of poop on the MMA cage fight, like, as I said, like, once you threw expectations out of, like, what the match was supposed to be, I found it to be very entertaining, but I can understand people who didn't like it either. But again, this is kind of like where we're going with MLW right now. So, and this is, well, where I'm going is the end of the episode, because I have talked enough about Never Say Never. Thank you all for giving this here podcast a listen. Stay tuned for the plugs and the best ways to support this podcast. Check out the links, because we got a couple of new cool links to follow through, because evidently, for some odd reason, I am now a WWE Shop affiliate. So click the link and get some percentage off your order and get a kickback to this podcast, help support it. And we're also getting kickbacks through links for Gevi coffee machines, vacuum cleaners, and ice makers. So, like, if you're in the market for some new ice machines, vacuums, or coffee makers, actually the coffee makers look pretty sweet, you know, be sure to use the affiliate link for that, as well, of course, with all the Patreon and all the other social media stuff on that as well. So again, thank you all for giving this a listen, and you know, I'll see you guys next week. MLW Confusion is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. MLW Confusion is part of the Urban Wrestling Network, and you can check them out and check out the Major League Pod on YouTube at Urban Wrestling NW. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is also helpful. Word of mouth of advertisement is very important for small podcasts such as this. Social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter and Instagram are at the Nova of Cass, TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is at MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual chip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova. Or if you prefer more bang for your buck, you can go to patreon.com/Casanova, CASSONOVA, whereas for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Alex McCarthy, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the description to find some affiliate links for, well, WWE merch, coffee machines, ice makers, and much more. For business inquiries such as ads and sponsorships, please email rzkamer, that's Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you for listening.